It's time to start Dishin Days with your hosts Tony Moore, Michael Mattis, Justin Lee Hareld, and Araceli Aviles. And now, let's dish.
Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Dishin Days. I am your host, Araceli Aviles, stepping in for Mr. Tony Moore, who you can see is not with us today. And to this direction, we have...
Michael Mattis, how are you?
And below me, we have...
Hey guys, Justin Lee Hareld.
And we are here to recap this week's Dishin Days. But before we start, make sure you follow us on all social media. We are Dishin Days Show on Facebook, at Dishin Days on Instagram, and Dishin Days on X and Threads. Please follow us on our YouTube channel, subscribe, like our videos, as well as follow us on all your favorite podcast station. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And don't forget that we now have an exclusive members-only page. If you want to sign up, please go to our social medias. Please, you can sign up right now while you're watching. It's what was that? $4.99 a month.
$4.99. We're out of our mind.
That's a steal. All right, so sign up today if you haven't.
Cheaper than
already.
Peacock.
It is cheaper than Peacock. Peacock went up in price. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. As well as please follow our dear friend JLJ Media on YouTube as he recaps all other soaps, Bold and the Beautiful, Young and the Restless, and General Hospital. And I will not make a joke about his age because I respect my elders.
And that's the joke.
Yeah.
Yes. No Tony this week. Actually not sure what he's doing, but he was otherwise occupied, so
He's busy.
He's busy.
He's busy.
Booked and blessed.
Yes. But he will be back next week, not to worry.
Yeah.
All right. And we are here in his stead, and we are covering a pretty monumental week to end 2024. We're getting close to the end of the year. We're wrapping things up. What did you guys think about this week?
This was a solid week of days. Even, obviously a pretty somber week in parts because of what was surrounding, the main event surrounding everything. But even the stuff later in the week, like the body and soul-ish stuff and the other things taking part, I was like, oh, this is really interesting this week. It's not like fluff. It was really good. It was emotional, entertaining, kept I didn't wait till the weekend to watch the episodes. I watched them daily, which I don't usually do. I usually wait until the weekend and binge watch them, but this week I had to, and
Yeah, I thought this was a great week. I mean, incredibly solid. I think we've been anticipating this week for a while, and like we're always joking, like we knew about some of the returning stars for at least 8 months. So honestly, the show did not disappoint at all. I think it was amazing and everything we want Days to be, and recalled a time of Days past. No pun intended. But yeah, really, really great week.
Yeah, I as well watched every day this week because it was just it really was must watch. I mean, for the vets alone, and the transition of how are we going to transition to and back to our regularly scheduled programming, just to see how everything fits together. It was a really solid week. And so without further ado, let's begin the show. It's time to start. I'm just going to count down.
Dishin
Days. Okay, that sounded really solid to me.
We were we were all over the place.
Honestly, I think it's the time to it never sounds for me. I always have to
for everybody
that. So to see, I think it's never going to sound correct. I think we're just all on different times. Yeah.
Yes. And before we start, I'd like to give a thank you to Christian Way World, who says, "Hi guys, sorry I'm late. Released Doug from prison." This Doug, I'm assuming he means the currently alive Doug.
Yes.
Yes. And so let's get started with our first storyline, which was Doug's memorial, which we have been talking about for months, maybe close to a year. We've been talking about. Yeah. Is there an echo?
Nope.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay. Yeah. We've been talking about this for close to a year. And that started out with bringing back the vets. And we're talking about people who have not been on the canvas in almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be Liz Chandler and Steven Olsen, though Marie Horton has popped up a time or two since.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The way it started, I was like, I need Marie and Liz to come back full time and have some sort of storyline against each other, because from the moment Liz Chandler sauntered into the square and it was just I'll be consider myself lucky if I never see Liz Chandler again. She's like, well, today is not your lucky day. And then on the next episode, they started going back and forth. I was like, okay, I may need them. I may need like a side episode with just them or something. But yeah, they were very entertaining. Luckily, they, as Maggie said, how mature of them to squash their beef from 40 years ago. They put their differences to bed. It made me want to try to go back and see if I can find like the original episodes. I don't know if those live anywhere, but yeah.
I loved it. I love seeing Liz back. Marie, like you said, we see her every decade. Maybe she comes back. I think the last time she was around was Alice's funeral. Then I think she came back maybe one time for like a situation with Nick. I can't remember.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, she hasn't been on in a while. And then Steven, who I'm a fan of Steven Sester from Another World back in the day, and so I was excited to see him back. He
was a snack back in the day too.
Yeah,
like they showed those flashbacks. I was like, oh, hello.
He's a gorgeous guy. Yeah,
and he actually still looks good.
No, he still looks
they
great.
all look fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason. They all look fantastic. They all were still at the top of their game.
Yep.
There's no reason for them not to be back. I would love to see a version of the Golden Girls with Liz Chandler, Marie Horton, Maggie Kyriakis, and Julie Williams. I want it.
Oh,
I need it now.
Oh man. And their cheesecake can be Alice's Donuts.
Yeah.
Instead of cheesecake can be Alice's Donuts.
Those four hopped up on Alice's Donuts, whether they're JJ's version or not JJ's recipe, would be just.
Yeah. I think there's room for them. I feel like there's no reason why it should be 40 years. Like, I mean, like you said, everyone looks great. Gloria Loring, who plays Liz, looks great and sounds great. And if you don't know who Gloria Loring is, please go look her up. Mm-hmm. She has a fantastic voice. She was married, and most people know she's Alan Thicke's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Thicke's mom. Married to Alan Thicke. I was like, wait, she's not. Was married to Alan Thicke back in the day. Big singer in real life, and also big singer of theme songs. Wrote a lot with Alan Thicke, a lot. So go look her up if you don't know who Gloria Loring is. But she doesn't act a lot anymore. Specifically, she just focuses on music. But I think she like jumped right back into it and was like dynamic. And what's like sometimes when you have like people come back who haven't done it for a while, like sometimes it's like stilted or like, there's like a little bit of like a hesitation there. And it's interesting because she comes from a time of days where they probably rehearsed for 2 days and then shot. You know what I mean? Like the fast pace of days now, it's such a different show. So for them, specifically the vets, to come back to be able to jump right into it and hold their own, I just like kudos to them. I think there's a place for them. Like, remember, Gloria, in terms of like Liz, she's the friendship with Marlene. Also, remember, she's Noelle's mother, and we haven't seen Noelle yet. We know Noelle is Sarah's sister. We know that there's history there. Yeah, she's been mentioned in relation to Rex a couple times. Noelle. I think there's a way for her to come back and bring Noelle if that's the case. There's a place for Marie as sort of the head of the family. She's the last Horton child that's living. I think there's a place for her in the Horton family. I think there's a place for Stephen to come back as the pseudo-reformed bad boy. I think having an older man of his stature on the show is great. Again, we've said goodbye to a few people over the last few months, so I think his presence would be
so
welcome.
With Steven in particular, I was intrigued by the Leo interaction.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
It was, and I saw some people complain. They're like, why is he talking to Leo? I was interested in because they're kind of similar in personality.
Yeah.
And he mentioned he has a gay son.
Yeah.
I want to meet him.
We all want to.
I was like, why are they dropping that? I was like, are they like dropping hints of like Spencer's coming sometime in the future?
Well, yeah, and I was just curious what that might lead to. And we know that Steven was popped in and popped out. So he's not long term or anything. But I'm curious if there was more significance that we're going to see to that interaction. Because I wouldn't have minded, like, if they were like, I don't want to call them capers together, but like if they like partners in something. Shenanigans, yes. Yeah. I think it would be like, the more seasoned one in Steven, and then Leo, who's still, a little bit sloppy sometimes. But they have that commonality and common personality. Whatever.
I sort of like that. I was like, oh, this is like Leo is definitely not a version of him, but they have a lot in common in terms of their past and what they've done and getting into trouble. So I didn't.
And both somewhat reformed. Leo's kind of reformed now.
Yeah, and we saw that Steven's not too far. Like I liked at the end when Julie said something like, "Oh, you're good now," or something like that. But something to that effect, and he was like, "Work in progress." Like I'm still,
Yes.
Like we know he didn't steal the necklace, but he could have stolen the necklace, and he wasn't too far removed from it. So yeah, I loved his scenes. I thought
I also enjoyed seeing people that interacted with, like, family members that interacted, like Sierra and Lucas, kind of taking charge. I don't think we saw a lot of them together before. I feel like they played well off of each other. Having Melissa Reeves back was good. Her interactions with the family and with Christian Alfonso, and having Christian Alfonso back, of course.
Yeah, it was just interesting to have everybody mixed together. And what Young Doug said at the end of his scenes of the week was true. Is like you need a chart. You normally need a chart to navigate Salem. Add in the people who haven't been there, who haven't lived in Salem in decades, coming back, and then it's expanded even much more. Yes, but yes,
I'm down for the vets. Only thing I was missing, I thought I was waiting for them to kind of throw this in as like, I know you hate the wink wink, Michael, but Steven Snetcher and Jack A used to play best friends on Another World. So I was hoping that they would get like a scene together, or if he would get a scene with Bonnie. I know she wasn't part of it, but I was waiting for them to do that little thing of like maybe they bumped into each other and said like, "Do I know you from?" Like I was waiting for like a scene of them.
Somebody check their social medias and see if that happened behind the scenes.
Yeah, they used to play best friends on.
I'm just glad no one told Sierra to watch Body and Soul, because one of the stars looks exactly like Ben. That's what I was anticipating. I was waiting for it and it didn't happen, and I was like, great. No mention of Ben at all, actually. Just the two children.
Okay. So I'm gonna be like Maggie and say let that go. And let's move on to the returning stars who have been here more recently, but did make a return just for Doug's funeral. And so those would be, while Jennifer and Jack were already here, Sierra, Hope, Lucas, Shawn, and Belle also made their way home for Doug's memorial. And Hope made her way later in the week because she was hopeful that Beau would wake up after squeezing her hand last week. Whether he is or is not, it was evident that it wasn't going to happen imminently, so that meant that she could make a return trip home to see her father, or unfortunately her father's grave now, where Sierra and Shawn were there to represent in her stead. Let's discuss the memorial. How I think it was done brilliantly.
Oh, it was worthy. Is that the word? It was they did what they should have done for him. You know what I mean? Like there were some people complaining like, oh, they couldn't do like a full church set. No, they couldn't do a full church set. But however, they did have the church outside or whatever. But I thought, like the speeches were great, the singing, and Susan and her eulogy, someone just mentioned it. See, like the eulogy was just beautifully written, and you could tell like everyone on that set had feelings, had emotions, and especially like I saw like Lamone had like literal tears, and I was like, oh my god, Lamone. Oh,
the master of the single tear.
Victoria had tears. Like, I mean, they were all just,
and they were real. That was not that wasn't for a character. That wasn't for a character. Those were tears for a man that they all adored.
Yeah, it was very much a memorial for both Doug and Bill. And I think that's what we were seeing, a lot of the emotions for not just the character of Doug as characters, but also them as real life people mourning not Doug, but also Bill. Sorry.
It's hard to keep them straight.
I know. I'm like, wait, Doug, no, Bill, no, yeah.
Because it's like every kind thing that you could say about Bill, you can say about Doug.
And also that, if I'm not mistaken, that eulogy was sort of a mix of the two. It was a mix of Doug and Bill, like some of it, some of the.
I don't know all of Bill Hayes's life like off the top of my head, but when she was reading it and she was going through, like, I was like, some of this has to be Bill and not Doug, and they're just writing it as which I didn't didn't have a problem with that, but it was beautiful. Like, there's no other word. I wish I had like a better non-basic word to describe, but it was very fitting. It was very proper. I felt, we've been talking about the returns. I felt like it was, especially for like the, coincided with they made it the 15,000th episode. It was as perfect as it could be. And, people were saying like, oh, why can't days be like this all the time? It's so, and like, it just can't, but let's enjoy it and just kind of savor it. But yeah, it was almost satisfying in a way, and it's a somber occasion, obviously. But it was like, yes, everyone that needed to be there was there. I liked how they explained Hope's absence, that we actually saw why she was staying, and it wasn't just said. Like, we actually saw, Bo squeeze the hand, because then it's like, oh yeah, of course she can't come. Bo's about to wake up. Like, it sucks that it's in this moment, but it made sense that we saw it instead of just someone coming in and being like, Hope can't come. You know what I mean? So I felt like it was all properly done.
I agree. I thought that it was a good way of handling it. I was worried about what they were gonna say and how it was gonna come off. But I think they handled it really well with, she sort of needed to be there. And I like that also when it was confirmed that he didn't immediately wake up, she jumped on a plane. And so it's like she missed the funeral in Salem time by a few hours. So that was realistic too. She didn't show up like a week later, kind of a thing, which I appreciated. I also love Liz's singing. That really I felt like touched me, not just her singing, because I was like, oh, they got Gloria Loring, she has to sing, great. But having the cast join in, I think, was something special. And for those that were at Day of Days, we've heard this song. Susan and Deidre and Amy Shaughnessy actually sang this at Day of Days as a tribute to both Bill and Drake Hogestyn. So for those of us who were at Day of Days, it was a nice little reminder. So
Yeah. If you were watching, you had chills. If you were lucky enough to be at Peacock Theater when they sang that song, you had chills. And it was perfection. It was perfection for a man who was probably as closest to perfect as you can get.
It's great seeing Sierra. We found out, so we now know that the second baby is named Addie.
Addie, yeah. I thought that she would have a girl. It seemed fitting. Yeah. And for anybody who's asking where Ben is and why isn't Ben mentioned, look, guys, I'm a Sin fan till the day I die. Just assume that Ben is watching the children. If the children are not with her, then the husband is with the children. Relax. Relax.
Keep an eye on them kids.
It's not that big of a deal for a father to stay with his own children.
Yeah. Okay, my one complaint, I got a complaint. The opening of the time capsule. I feel like they flubbed that.
That was a little underwhelming. Like for something that's been kind of, not out in the open, but up in the air, I guess, for like a while now. Like we didn't even get to see her like try to open it. She just turned around and was like, so there should have been like at least one scene of her like struggling to get it open. And it was fitting that it was Sierra because Hope opened the puzzle box. We got some flashbacks of that. Like 30 years ago. That was when I started watching. That was 30 years ago. Oh my God. Reality check. Anyway, it was proper. It was appropriate that it was Sierra, but yeah, I wish there would have been a little bit more struggle or something. And maybe that's what was missing for you, Justin. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. They've kind of hinted at being like, oh, Sierra, how fitting, she's like her mother, which ties back to Hope opening the puzzle box, which revealed that she was Hope all those years ago. And it was like, it was a complete missed opportunity. I thought what was going to happen was, because we saw this in the preview, that she opened it, or that it was open from her. I thought she was going to take it and they would have her mimic the same things Christian Alfonso did 30 years ago. And it would be like, oh, my mom taught me to look for this or these clues, or, me and my mom always loved puzzles. Like, I felt like that was what was missing. And then to have it be off camera too, it was like, if you're not going to do it all the way, then at least show us her like flipping not a switch or like finding a little button there underneath or something to like open it. But it was literally her back was turned to the camera, which kind of was uneventful. And it was a lot of build-up it wasn't that big of a payoff. There was basically no payoff to it. I don't know. That was my only gripe about having them all there. I felt like it could have been more of a bigger moment.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. But in the moment when I started in my mind being like, oh, that's all we got, I was like, Michael, let it go. Like after everything, after all the good that's happened, like I was like, Michael, you're enjoying this. Just enjoy it. Let it go.
Yes.
Like, it needed to be open. She opened it, and found like what all did they find in there?
The prize was what was inside. And there's so much hoopla about the necklace, but the fact that the Horton house caught on fire and they thought that so many family mementos were going to be gone and destroyed. And lo and behold, Alice Horton, in all her wisdom, decided to put family mementos that she cherished in that time capsule, which I think they mentioned love letters for between Alice and Tom, Marie's little baby booties, old family photos from when the original Hortons were young. So those really are treasures. Truly, that's the real treasure, in my opinion. Not to discount a diamond necklace, but truly,
and then that ball and diamond necklace.
Truly, those are the things that.
Annette Thompson, we're not asking those questions this week. We're not asking why she didn't put it in a bank vault. We're just accepting that she put it in a lockbox behind a wall.
Yeah,
it was great seeing Lucas.
Yes, yeah. Lucas always adds so much fun. You forget that. I think because at the time that he found out he was at Horton, he wasn't really well integrated into the Horton family. It wasn't until later in life when he adopted the Horton name that he really was really fully integrated into the family. And so now when he comes to family functions, he really adds to the dynamic.
And he wasn't really in the Horton fold from my recollection until he started developing a problem with alcohol and Maggie became his sponsor. I feel like that's what led Lucas into the Horton fold. And then he started getting included in their Christmases and he started being Lucas Horton instead of Lucas Roberts. But yeah, Brian Datillo is just, and every now and then he'll be like kind of behind somebody and someone will say something, he'll react to it and you're like, oh, Brian, and I don't know, there was a couple moments with like and again, the food game on the show right now has been top-notch. Those donuts and breakfast sandwiches, I was like, where is this food coming from, because it looks good. Side note, when Jennifer came in and was like, what's going on? They're like, we're having donuts and breakfast sandwiches because this new guy's hungry. Because she was still wearing a black outfit or a dark colored outfit when she took that powdered donut. I was like, because I was like, that powder is going to go everywhere. And even I think Brian wasn't eating one. The new guy, the new Doug, just had like lips full of powdered sugar. And that's all I could think. I was like, oh, the powdered sugar is getting everywhere, but they look good.
You have to enjoy it. Enjoy your food. Yeah.
No, but I think you mentioned earlier, I loved the dynamic of Lucas and Sierra. We usually don't get them, or I don't remember them having significant time together as characters before, but it was a nice mix. And I like that. I love when they lean, because sometimes if there's a Horton Brady, sometimes they lean more on the Brady side, and it was nice to see Sierra enmeshed in the Horton side of the family. And then, of course, we had them sort of team up, which was like kind of cute to go after Steven, which was kind of funny.
Yeah, we'll pick that up in 1 second, but I do want to touch on the other piece of bad news that we got for any Shell fans out there. It looks like this couple is no more.
I saw someone post a tweet and I had to giggle at it because they're like, Belle and Shawn, you're almost 50. Please get your shit together. And I heard something to that. I'm paraphrasing, and then I watched it and I was like, yeah, y'all like can't figure your shit out yet. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe y'all need to, maybe not divorced, but maybe like a trial separation or something. But they're going straight to divorce, or Shawn is at least.
Here's the thing. I, for the first time, maybe don't want this couple to get back together. We all believe in like the couple that's destined and everything like that, but the amount of back and forth and trial they've had more separations in the last 10 years than I can possibly count.
And they've both somewhat cheated on each other. Belle definitely did. The Shawn thing with Jan, that was devil.
Yeah, but he did cheat with Talia.
But he did cheat. Oh, that's right.
He did cheat with Talia. That was fairly recent.
Oh, I forgot.
Yes,
it's almost like this toxic marriage. Like
they don't.
Just intent on hurting each other.
I don't know that they're intent on hurting each other. I think it's more of a self-destruction kind of a thing where they just, when you try to recapture what you had as teenagers, it doesn't go well. They are not the same people that they were when they fell in love as teenagers. And time and again, they fail to realize that. They lean on that as their crutch. But they're not the same people. It is possible to grow with someone in a relationship over time, but rarely when you fall in love so young. It's hard.
Okay.
You have to work at it.
I
And
think-
trial separation so early for them because they started out being apart. At this point, they probably have been apart as many years as they've been together. And that's not.
And I mean, I guess,
healthy.
you know, they were already kind of separated because she and Shawn weren't really together. That was kind of explained that. And then she was even pensive or nervous about like, oh, do you mind if I'm here? And I was like, oh, we're in that space. Okay.
Yeah.
Ugh, y'all. Okay.
Yeah, this was long overdue for me. I like Shawn and Belle as a couple, but I don't. They're not like I don't know if super couple's the word. They're just. I feel like the show hasn't invested in them as they want them to be. Like I think if you want them to be the next generation or this couple that comes from super couples, so you want them to be, I think you have to invest in that, and just relying on the fact that they were, you know, high school sweethearts isn't enough. I actually kind of find that, at least for Belle, I feel like they've had a lot more, not more chemistry with other people, but I found myself more excited about their storylines when they're with other people. I'm actually someone who likes Belle and Philip together. Not that I'm rooting for them to be back together, but I'd say over the last 20 years, I found myself liking them with other people. I don't mind them together, but I don't think the show has also fully invested in them to make them another John and Marlena or Bo and Hope. So it's like let it go for now. Maybe if you revisit it years from now, maybe, but let them go on. Let's see if they have chemistry with other people. We know they do, and let's see how that works out. And but yeah, I feel like they've always had one foot in with this couple and one foot out. Kind of, it's like they've never invested in bringing them together and showing us them because they've been off canvas for a lot of the time over the last 20 years. And then they don't fully want to break them up and divorce them and let them really go their separate ways. So hopefully they'll let them do that, and they'll each get maybe new partners or they'll have other interests. And just like I like the way the show phrased it, or Shawn phrased it, where he said, "Let's see who we are without each other." And I'm like, yes, please. I think we're interested in seeing that now.
And not just and I know that everybody's excited. Well, who will they be with next? I'm excited to see them invest in themselves because they've been in just such a limbo for so long, and Shawn has been through so much that he needs to heal from. That I think, especially now with the fact that we're losing so many veterans, it's time to invest in the next generation as upholding their legacy, not necessarily as super couples, though that would be okay. We can invest in the next generation of super couples. I would very much advocate for more romance in the afternoon, but I treat their children and start shaping them as their parents' legacies, because that's what's going to be left when they're gone. No one can replace our veterans, but we're losing them at an alarmingly fast rate. Too fast for my liking. So I think it's important to invest in this next generation. We're talking about people who have been on the campus already for 20 years, but invest in them as their parents' children. You know, build them up on the canvas. Sean Douglas is the child of Bo and Hope. He doesn't need to be a screw up any longer. As you know, that commenter said, he's nearing 50. He's closer to 50 than he is to 30 now. So invest in them as grown-ups, as people, as the next generation in this community.
Thank you, Betty Jean.
Yeah, thanks
thank you, Betty Jean.
for the $2.
Yes, thank you.
Every little bit helps.
Yes. And speaking of the next generation, let's finally discuss the new Doug. Peyton Meyer has joined Days of Our Lives as Doug Williams III, supposedly.
I couldn't follow how. Okay, maybe I could.
Okay.
Doug had a son through IVF.
Mhm.
Okay,
Who's
so
the mom?
I remember. I actually do remember. I believe JLJ himself came on our show and discussed it at one point, and then I did go back in the archives and double check. So after, I believe this was after Addie died, and Doug was a single father to baby Hope, and he wanted her to have a sibling. I believe Rebecca, who would have been Doug Jr. or Dougie's mother, was Hope's nanny, I believe, or she was around town for something
Yes,
like
she was
that.
the nanny. Yeah.
Yeah, she was her nanny. I don't believe there was any romantic involvement between them. He just saw how good she was with Hope, asked if she would be the mother, or I don't know if the surrogate or the mother, full mother, whatever, but to bear his child so that Hope would have a sibling. Down the line, he changed his mind, and I do remember James Law Jr. talking about this, because I remember him saying it wasn't Doug's best moment when he changed his mind after the child was already born. Yeah, so that it's again, I said Doug Sr. was as close to perfect as possible. No, the nanny was a surrogate. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
there's like some separation here. I think she was the nanny, but I think she ended up using Doug's supply and getting pregnant, but Doug wasn't involved with that. This came later. This was years later. So the storyline came back around. So it was sort of like a drop storyline that later came back.
Okay, but then Doug, but Doug did, correct me if I'm wrong, did say that he didn't want to be a father to the child.
Well, he already had a father at that point, so it wasn't like.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like when she came back on canvas with a child, she was already like a married woman. So that's why Dougie is Doug's son, has a different name because he was raised, I think it's McLaren is the name.
Yes, Robert Clary, I believe our audience is telling us. And now I'm not sure if this was written back then or if this was retroactively written, that the son, who was Dougie, since changed his name to Charles.
Yes.
We have no more knowledge of Charles, where he is, if he's still alive, what have you. We have only now this grandson's return to show that all of this happened.
Yeah.
I guess I understand how he came to exist. What I didn't understand was like the whole name change, and like it was kind of a lot of word vomit for me when I was watching it, and I was like, huh?
It's a bit suspicious because, and also just to clarify, Doug was okay with it because, again, it was one of those things of more like he's just the father biologically, but recognize that Rebecca is raising him with another man. They're a family. The other man's a great guy. So it wasn't like there wasn't like any weird deception going on or anything. It was more a situation of like, we have this situation. I'm the biological father, but I know that he's being raised with his mom and a great stepdad. And so they just left town. And there was no like they didn't steal him. Doug wasn't looking for him. It was just this thing of I have another son out there biologically, but I didn't raise. He's with his mom and his stepdad and blah, blah, blah. So that part is weird. That's why the part about changing the name is suspicious. Like you seemingly grew up with this great family. Yes, you've now found out you're biologically related to Doug, but why would you change your name to, you know what I mean?
There's a lot of questions. So here's what we know so far about young Doug. And I'm not sure if we're going to call him Doug or Dougie. He goes by Doug. It's not clear yet. We met him at the beginning of the week. He was in jail. Much the same. It was an homage to Bill Hayes' first scene on the canvas when he was in jail with Bill Horton. And if any of our audience noticed, there was the the tribute on the book
Yeah.
to the Ballad of Davy Crockett, which is Bill Hayes' most famous song.
Yeah.
There is actually a clip of him saying, explaining to Jimmy Fallon on his show about that. So that was their homage to Bill. We know that Doug was in jail. We know that he got out in time for Doug Sr.'s funeral. We know that he changed his name from Leclerc to Williams. He's roughly in his late 20s, about that age. And he stole the necklace. He stole the necklace. He got to town before the funeral, presumably while everyone's at the funeral, stole the necklace, went back to the gravesite, met Julie, and then has since met the rest of the family. And that is all we know.
Yeah. I hope, because obviously there's a lot of suspicion. Like, Julie's buying it, but she's obviously in a vulnerable state and probably, latching on to a piece of her now deceased husband is like no question for her. But for others, like, Jennifer, Hope was the first one to kind of be like side-eyeing this dude and is like, I don't know. And then she got Jennifer on board and asked Jennifer to kind of keep her eye on the guy. And a lot of people are like, don't believe it's really him. I feel like not making him who he says he is kind of like too expected. I kind of want him to be who he says he is. I want him to be this new Horton. And, there's a good way to find out, which is
get a DNA test.
Yeah. Hopefully one that isn't messed with. Yes.
One that isn't messed with. Yeah, that's the caveat.
Hope even brought up the idea of investigating him and calling his father.
Calling his father, yeah.
This long lost brother who she's never met.
But I hope that he really is who he says he is, and they don't go down the expected route that he's not. I feel like that would just be like, yeah, okay, we all knew he wasn't.
Well, this is a two-part question. Okay, so number one, do we think he is Doug's grandson?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Question number two. Do we think, because there's a difference here, do we think he is a charming villain or a smarmy villain? Or smarmy guy?
What was the first option?
Is he charming or is he smarmy? Because we know he's a thief. But is he like Doug Williams thief? Or is he like Clyde Weston thief?
Yeah.
I don't know yet, actually.
I know I can't gauge. I guess I'm leaning more towards the charming and less towards the Clyde.
Yeah, Clyde to me is like menacing. I don't get that vibe from him, like he's dangerous.
Yeah, but Clyde was smarmy in terms of like he could turn on the charm, but you knew that everything he said was laced with disgust and stuff.
I don't necessarily get that from what we've seen. I don't get that from him, but who knows? I mean, he's essentially playing a role. I just don't know if that. First of all, like I said, I do think he's Doug the Third. I also think they're trying to make a bit of a parallel between him and his grandfather. Again, Doug Sr. was a con artist when he came. He was not, not the greatest of guys. His whole point was to basically con Addie out of her millions in that, and that's sort of where he came. Well, outside of the Julie part of it. But so I think they're trying to do that parallel. So I think if they're following that, then he's ostensibly a good guy, for a thief. I don't think he's dangerous, but we also don't know that much about him. I think it's more interesting for him to be Doug's son as opposed to a con artist, and to have that type of element in the family, I think is more interesting than for him to just be a random guy who's saying, being a phony kind of a thing. I think it's more interesting if he is Doug's grandson.
Same.
Yes. And to paraphrase Leo Stark, Let he who has not locked up his ex-wife cast the first stone. Yes, which line of the week?
They did
to
deserve-
Leo Stark.
Yeah.
What was
Line
the
of the
line?
week.
I'm forgetting this.
Somebody remind me what the exact line was, but he was telling off
Who's Sierra and Lucas.
Sierra
Yeah.
and Lucas
When they were
for
going in on Steven, and he was like,
Yes.
well, you're married to a serial killer. And then
Mhm.
he said to Lucas, you just kidnap your, well, he said wife, which was wrong, but it's, whatever.
yeah.
He said, you just
They were.
kidnapped
She
last
was.
time, yeah.
They and Sammy were married at one point. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
And the funny thing was Brian DeTillo's face was kind of like, what, like, whatever. Yeah. Like,
he's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what I'm talking about. Brian DeTillo. Like
Yeah.
his reactions are Lucas. And
it's the Horton. It's also the Horton shield, which I would caution.
That's
I would
true.
caution. See, Jennifer at the end of the week had, I think, the right attitude where she agreed that Hope was right to be suspicious. However, she didn't let on, and she didn't immediately go in on him. She said, I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to keep an eye on things. And that's the right attitude to have.
Yeah.
The wrong attitude to have is the Horton superiority complex,
Yeah.
which has gotten many a Horton in trouble because you think that you come from this great family. It does not excuse your bad behavior, Lucas.
Mhm.
Nick. Julie defending Nick.
I mean, I don't blame them for thinking Steven. I think the way they went about it was wrong. I think it was okay to be like, this, long lost relative show. It was sort of like they were kind of right. They were just off by the person. So,
Yeah.
A long lost relative did show up who's a bit of a grifter and took the necklace. It just wasn't who they thought it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. They were definitely working the Horton sort of, superiority complex there, but I enjoyed it at least.
Yes. Steven was a grifter. He seemed like a perfectly lovely man. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that was Doug's memorial. And dang, we've been talking about, this moment coming to this culmination ever since last year.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be
passed.
mentioned. Hang on, let me do a little something. Oh, okay. We'll mention it then. I was just going to mention something that we're going to talk about in a later storyline.
Yeah.
But they were back for Doug's, but they also had their own thing.
Yes.
So
We're going to touch on, everybody. For reference, everybody was back for the memorial. There are a few people who are sticking around, and for
or haven't left yet, and
yet. Yeah, the only confirmation we know for sure of people who are sticking around, who are not going to be like going off and coming back. For now, we know that Belle and Shawn are back. That is confirmed. They're sticking around Salem. We'll see how that culminates in the coming weeks, but they will be staying. They are staying, as well as Philip, who we're gonna talk about imminently. Yeah, but everybody else we don't know is kind of coming in and out. But before we get to our tidbits, I want to remind everyone to please follow us on all social media platforms. Dishin Days Show on Facebook, at Dishin Days on Instagram, and Dishin Days on X and Threads. Also, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see more of our content. And please like our videos and join our exclusive members only page if you haven't already. It's $4.99 a month. And we will be having upcoming videos and at least one event to end out the year. We have a happy hour event coming up. So please join if you haven't already. The Master Angel, as you can see, became a YouTube member today. Congratulations. And we look forward to seeing you at our happy hour. So please join us there. And please also, if you can't watch us live, make sure to follow us on our podcast. We are on Apple, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And please follow our comrade in arms, JLJ Media, on YouTube, where he covers Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, and General Hospital for your entertainment.
And also has his own line of original audio dramas. He does his own happy hours, his Zooms.
He does so much, I can't keep track.
He does a lot.
Yeah.
He's a busy gal.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Next up, we have our tidbits, and we'll start with the aforementioned Philip Kyriakis and his building allies. So
he has more allies than he only has really one non-ally. What's a non-ally? My words aren't coming.
Xander.
Xander, yeah.
Opponent.
There we go. Yeah, Xander,
yes.
Who is trying to. I enjoyed his scene with Stephanie, the Xander, Stephanie, and Paul and Abigail. I felt like they.
Someone mentioned that this might have been their first one-on-one scene together. I think
so.
I don't remember them having much like talking to each other at all, and that was another like kind of theme this week. People interacting with each other that maybe hadn't. That's another example. Stephanie didn't take the bait, even though he offered her double what Philip was paying to come back to Titan. So, which is Steph, I wouldn't have believed. I would have been like, that would have been so out of character for Stephanie to go against Philip after agreeing to help Philip originally. So
yeah. And I mean, it would be a mistake for Xander to underestimate Philip, not necessarily because Philip is going to do a better job than Xander. That's debatable. But because of the points that both Stephanie and Shawn brought up this week, that Philip was the only son that Victor raised. Mm-hmm. He was pretty much groomed from childhood to take over the company. Mm-hmm. The fact that he hadn't yet was because of Victor's, curmudgeon-y attitude most of the time. And because I think he wanted to give everyone in the family a fair shake, from Xander to Philip to Brady to Deimos. I mean, you name a Kyriakis, they've been in charge. Kate, I think, was even in charge at one point. But Kate could rule the world if she wanted to. So that, that it should be her only sin was that her last name is no longer Kyriakis.
Yeah. It's interesting because even though we keep having to be reminded that this letter Philip has is fake. He and Vivian helped him forge this fake letter. But even so, I'm kind of like even though he faked the letter and it's in Victor's will, I'm kind of on, like, I'm partly on Xander's side, I'm partly on Philip's side. Like, I feel like they both have a rightful claim. Philip, even though it's not in writing in the legit will, like, I still feel like I feel like he would have a claim, like he could fight this even without a fake letter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. I think to me, the letter now has become inconsequential. And I feel like I like that they're playing it that way. Yes, other people are bringing it up when they're talking about Philip, but it isn't just like, oh, he has the letter, so he should get it because Victor said. It's more like Shawn pointed out, you've been groomed for this your whole life. You have a legitimate stake. You are the son that was actually raised by Victor. So I like that they're pushing those points. Like I said, honestly, for me, the letter could have been real, or it just could have not existed, and I would have been okay with Philip coming back.
Philip could have come back. Sorry,
yeah,
I talked over.
And I like that he's mounting allies. I like the fact that Stephanie's like, I think you should run Titan. I'm going to help you. I like the fact that Shawn is like, I support you. We've had our issues in the past, but I actually think you should run Titan. I like that he's gaining people. And part of me is thinking that when this, the reveal of the fake letter come out, maybe it won't be as damaging to him, or at least his allies won't care as much. I feel like, because I feel like there is a legitimate, I think he has a legitimate claim. And I think they're locking onto that more than this letter.
I suspect they will not care as much if he doesn't muck it up. although I do want to correct a point that Caroline in our comments made. Philip was not
That's what I was
mentioned
going to
in
ask. I
Victor's
remember.
and final will. No. So
He and Kate both were.
Victor's final will included 2 people and 2 people only. Xander and Maggie. That was it. He gave
That's what
the
I
house.
remember.
He gave the house to Maggie. He gave the company to Xander, and then he split the fortune 50-50 with the trust that Maggie would distribute the funds to the rest of the family as she saw fit. Those were his wishes, plain and simple. Kate, yes, and that you are correct. Kate mentioned, because at the time that this was written, Philip was presumed dead. Legally, he was presumed dead, while Victor and Kate had him stashed away in a mental recovery center. So quietly, Victor and Kate set a bulk of the estate aside for Philip, and only Kate knew about it. They had that was settled between them at a separate time. That had nothing to do with the company. It had nothing to do with the bulk of the estate. Had nothing to do with the house. There were 2 people and 2 people only. Not even Brady was in the will by name, unless you count like maybe trinkets for the grandchildren or something like that. But the bulk of the estate, the house, it was Xander and Maggie. That was it.
Yes, and that's sort of Philip's. This is why I think the letter to me is kind of inconsequential, because the whole point of that from Philip's standpoint is that he wouldn't have left me and he wouldn't have put me in the will because of my mental issues. I was in a mental hospital. Now I'm fine. I'm clear. I'm on the mend, kind of a thing. That's sort of
that's legitimate.
Which is a legitimate argument. That's why I'm saying, like, I feel like the letter may become inconsequential as this storyline goes on. We'll see. I like the fact that it's not like the golden ticket, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm gonna win this case because I have the letter. Like the letter to me is kind of sort of secondary to his case.
And realistically speaking, I think anyone who knew Victor probably would have known that he would have changed his mind had he not been killed. That he had the time, because he literally had the will with him when he passed away. He had literally within 24 hours had rewritten his will. I suspect he would have included Philip in some form, if not to include him in the will, make him co-CEO with Xander, something of that form. Yeah. So Philip's claim, while based on a fake letter, is not necessarily illegitimate.
Yeah.
So he's not wrong. So it would be a mistake for Xander.
I'm thinking about this. Okay, so if and when Stephanie finds out the letter is fake, you think she'll still back Philip? Do you think she'll say, like, despite the letter, do you think she might say Justin and be like, oh, the letter's inconsequential, I still think you deserve it? Or do you think she's gonna defect?
I think that's a weird one, just because Stephanie's it's a professional thing too with her now, and I think that might really piss her off and feel like betrayed. I don't know if she would. Well, I mean, she's ostensibly a good person, so I don't think she would like the idea of him committing quote unquote fraud either way, whether she was involved or not. But I think the fact that he's now involving her business, and her business is to promote him now, I think that sort of classifies as a betrayal. That, unfortunately, where I kind of feel like I see where this is going, them two getting, and we saw a little bit in the preview, them two sort of getting closer and maybe rekindling a romance. So I wonder if this reveal puts the kibosh on it, or maybe they're already together and she finds out and says, I'll deal with it, or it's not a big deal. I don't know. But I feel like because her company and her professional reputation is involved, it's going to come off more as a betrayal.
It's a tough question to answer, because I believe it was last week, when she told Alex about her history with Philip, she brought up the fact that what broke them up originally was that Philip basically chose his father over her.
Mhm.
And it wasn't really even it wasn't even implied, because Stephanie gave him the choice. There were things going on at that time where she literally said the words, like, me or your father. So and he chose Victor. Victor is no longer a factor, but his legacy is. So and you add in the fact that it's been 15 plus years since they were together personally, or even professionally, actually, because they haven't really even set eyes on each other in over a decade. So it's tough. It's tough to answer.
What do you think?
I don't know.
I mean, Michael.
Oh,
yeah.
Michael, sorry.
No.
Part of me thinks she'll find out it won't become public. Like, she'll find out she'll find out the letter is fake, and then I think the dilemma will be like, what does she do with that? And obviously she'll probably ream Philip out at least once for it.
Yeah.
But I think she'll stay on Philip's side.
Okay.
Or maybe help him like bury the letter.
Yeah. Huh. I remember Stephanie. I mean, well, this is a while ago, but remember, she was also mixed up in the paternity switch of Parker. So Stephanie, she's got a past too.
There's a lot with these.
Yeah, there's a lot in their history that maybe, I don't know. That's also something he could bring up of, like, neither one of us has always been so innocent, kind of a thing. So yeah, yeah, maybe.
Who you to judge me? You're a liar.
I liked Bad Stephanie. To tell you the truth, I liked when she was misbehaving.
Yeah,
I think Abigail could play bad Stephanie. Like, she's good at playing, Stephanie is like this heroine, but I think Abigail has it in her to play devious.
Yeah,
more devious Stephanie.
Yeah, I like mixing her up.
That'd be more fun for her too.
Yeah. She's probably more likely to be devious with Philip than Alex at this point. So yeah.
Yes. All right. Moving.
Matthews, I'm not putting that comment up.
Okay.
Next up,
Alex versus Johnny. Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! How things get worse when EJ Dimeras sticks his nose where it doesn't belong.
At least his pocketbook. Nose, but yes, when
like we said last week, EJ's bored or he needs something to do.
He needs something to do.
Yeah.
Oh, your son is a grown man. You have no business getting in his business.
I will say, however, this is totally something Stefano would have done.
Oh,
if if it were, Tony or EJ or one of his sons.
Yeah.
This is absolutely a Stefano move. So I appreciate that EJ is, following father's footsteps or whatever. And because I was like, oh yeah, that's totally something Stefano would do. Just be like, okay, I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to get this bitch out of town, pay her off. And
he probably would have kidnapped her first. And then,
or that.
Probably would have been
as nice. In the secret room.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. And I think EJ actually was alluding to his father in that, because he said it's technically bribery, not blackmail, and at least it's not murder.
Yeah,
I agree with our friend Jen here, who I was like, Alex, why are you trying to be Joy's, like, why just leave it alone, go learn your lines, be shirtless and stay out of it.
I actually disagree. I think that Joy doesn't need a knight in shining armor, but she does need a friend. This girl doesn't have a friend in the world, a true friend who knows all her secrets. And here's this guy who, he doesn't want anything from her. He sees that she's actually good at her job, and that she's being railroaded by a rich family because she made one mistake. And rather than the married man fessing up to his mistake or owning it or being punished for it. She, as the girl who made a one-time mistake, is being run out of town. He's not wrong.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, I think it's that. I also think it's a little bit it's a little bit guilt too of the Chanel factor, I think, is seeping into his decision making in that confrontation too. I think he was more than willing to, like, I'll keep my mouth shut, we'll pretend it didn't happen, we'll all sort of work together and move on, kind of a thing, and we'll keep Chanel in the dark. She'll be none the wiser. I'll deal with that part of it. But the idea of, like, oh no, we're not all going to work together. You now are not only, you're now sort of like not kind of destroying her life, but you're now altering her life now for your own benefit. Mm-hmm. And she's sort of getting the short end of the stick here. So I think that, yeah, that's a lot to do with it too.
Alex is getting back to how Alex was before all this stupid, I think I'm Victor's son nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? What were you going to say, Justin?
No, I actually just forgot what it was.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm sort of, yeah.
I guess what I didn't like about the Alex situation is just the way he came at Johnny so sanctimonious. Now, that really, it bugs me when characters get, like, they're pointing out something someone else did wrong, like their shit doesn't stink too. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I'm like, Alex hasn't, like, what has he really done, you know, other than be like, you know, kind of, what am I trying to say? Like, I don't want to use the term man whore, but that's not, like, he's not lying to people. He's not deceiving people. He's not cheating. Did he cheat? I can't remember. No. He's been through a lot. There's been so much with Alex. No. I'm trying to keep it straight.
No.
But the way he got very sanctimonious, and that was actually my issue. Okay, unpopular opinion. I was never a fan of Bo and Hope when they were together because they would always look down on people, and they just had this air of superiority over everybody that dared to tell a lie or do something wrong. And now Alex is kind of going, and the way he just like, Johnny boy, I'm like, okay, testosterone level, take it down.
Yeah, but there's a difference between being right and being righteous. And I think that in this particular situation, Alex is right, because Alex of late has gotten back to the Alex that we first met in terms of he tends not to judge people. He kind of is like a live and let live kind of a person. You know, he's not going to tell anybody, you know, he's not the type to tell people what they did wrong, which is why he was going to keep his mouth shut for Chanel's sake, because she is his friend and he didn't want to hurt her or be part of being responsible for hurting her. However, when he saw that the Dimeras solution to this was to basically upend Joy's entire life and have Johnny take absolutely no accountability, he had a problem with that.
I think it was that.
Put it like that.
I think when he stormed in, it was like, your dad's doing this, blah, blah, blah. And then Johnny sort of folded too. He wasn't like, yes, he gave some resistance with EJ earlier, but in that scene with Alex, he was just kind of like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Like, it's done, kind of a thing. And I think that Alex, to me, I agree. I think when I saw Alex come in, Michael, I was sort of like, what's it? Oh God, now he's getting more involved with it. Like, stay out of it. And then when Johnny kind of folded, I was like, oh shit, he's kind of right. Like, I'm back on Alex's side now, I guess.
Here's the thing: when Chanel inevitably finds out what happened, Johnny will pay. He will pay big time. Alex doesn't need to be Chanel's knight in shining armor or Joy. Well, I do give him respect for standing up for his friend. Oh, and by the way, I did enjoy the scenes of Alex and Joy's kind of friendship. There was a comment made about like the platonic relationships between men and women don't really exist on the show, or maybe like are few and far between. And they interact well off each other. And I'd be down to exploring that more. But you know, but Chanel will give Johnny what he trust and believe.
Yeah.
Speaking of Chanel, I really enjoyed this scene of like, and it felt real, like the beauty night with Chanel, Lonnie, and Paulina.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's Lonnie's last night in town, and you know and I was like, yeah, I can see that. Okay, she came in for the funeral, and now she and the mom and sisters are having like a girls' night, and they're having like the conversations about like life, and Lonnie kind of recapped what she went through, kind of the juxtaposition with what was going on with JJ, and then she kind of recounted her history with JJ.
Yeah.
How the situation with Chanel was similar to her situation with JJ and Lamone, Eli.
Yeah.
And then like I was like, oh, that was so nice. I really like this. And then the very end of that, where the scene where they had Lonnie visit the grave of the baby. I was like, oh, okay. Like it was unexpected.
Yeah.
And it was just very, very touching. And I was like, oh, I was like, good for Days. Good for Days for like kind of rounding out that whole scenario with Lonnie.
Yeah.
And giving Lonnie, like, you know, they did Lonnie, the show did Lonnie wrong. Like sending her to jail for what she did, that was BS. And I feel like maybe this is their way of making it up, not just to the character, but maybe to Sal as well.
Yeah. It was a nice little offshoot of like that scene. Because I wasn't expecting them to then go to the grave of David.
It was just a touching scene.
Yeah. But we also see like in that the beauty night, like Paulina is still holding on to like this grudge. She's still holding on to it. And I know we had a scene last week of it too. And then you know Chanel is just fed up. She's like, girl, like I forgave it. It's not that serious. Like
Mama.
Like, get with the program, but he's holding on to it.
It's hard. It's hard when somebody hurts your baby. It's almost worse because the mamas are the ones that they know how to hold a grudge like you wouldn't believe.
I'm not annoyed by the fact that Paulina's holding a grudge with Johnny. It like, again, it felt real. Like that whole scene with the three of them and the conversations, it was just very honest and real. And like Mama Bear, you know, you called my daughter a cheating slut when you didn't have your X's and your O's together. So it'll take a little time for Paulina. Well, and then when she you know, God help Johnny.
I know. She's going to be very self-righteous about this.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, Lonnie was like, I did the same thing. But Lonnie didn't have a choice but to fess up because she got pregnant. So So that was kind of a decision made for her. Yeah, but it was a nice way to round out the week. And guys, let's not fret. They have said repeatedly, we will be back. We will be back. Calm down. We will be back. So it's like maybe we don't get Lamone and Sal full time, but Eli and Lonnie have been promised to be back in Salem sooner rather than later. So just keep watching. They'll be home before you know it.
I've said it before. Those two just they add an element to the show that is missing when they're gone. And I can't explain why, but just having them around just makes the show feel complete to me.
Yeah.
Because they're good and they're you know.
I think because they did a good job cementing them, and I think Lonnie they even had the characters comment on this, like especially for Lonnie to Eli, of like, you've only known them, the Hortons, for a few years, but you're cemented in the family now. You are really like close with Julie and everyone. I think they could do a better job of integrating him with the other Hortons. That was honestly my bigger complaint that I had. when he was on the show, it was just about Julie. And it's like, oh, like, why didn't we, I don't know, my biggest complaint was like, oh, why didn't we make him best friends with Lucas? Sort of like Hope and Jennifer are. Why didn't we have like, and there were a couple scenes where he had like scenes with Sarah where he said cousin. It was like stuff like that I like to see, but overall, I think they've done a great job, and especially with Lonnie. Like we know she's Paulina's daughter. They sort of have worked out that part of it. Then we know Abe officially adopted her, so they're cemented in their roles, and I think that's a part of it too.
You're absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. That they were well when they were on the show full time. They were well integrated with everybody, and then when they left, it kind of left a hole. Yeah.
But they'll be back. It'll be okay. Yes. And everywhere else other than Salem, I believe this crew is in Vancouver in close quarters. Chad, Kat, JJ, and Gabby, unfortunately, were in transit to Vancouver to deal with the Clyde situation. Did not get to hear about Doug's service until it was over. That's apparently a long flight from Vancouver.
I'm like, okay, I had to, and again, I was like, Michael, let it go. But I was like, there's no way. Like, they didn't know Doug had died.
I know.
And it was like
a
day, at least a day later, if not more, when they found out. And I'm like, yeah, you all weren't up in the air circling because of weather for a day and a half, for like a full 48 hours. But again, I just had to be like, okay, they couldn't have them for whatever reason. In the Doug situation there, and so they had to explain it some way. And that's how it
was better explained on JJ's end, where he said he was avoiding his parents' calls because he figured they were still trying to talk him out of the plan. Chad had children to check in on. I don't know what was going on there, but children who it didn't even occur to me until the end of the week must be absolutely devastated at the loss of Doug, because after Abigail died, Doug and Julie pretty much helped raise those kids. So I hope we get to see Chad's children again soon, because when this whole mess with Clyde is sorted out, because I wanted to give those kids a big hug. Because they were the ones. And it's funny because, Doug has so many family members, but he's helped in his 90s, his late 90s. He's helping raise little kids. Come on. Ugh.
They have lived at that house for a long time.
Yeah. Oh man, that's just heartbreaking. Yes, but in the meantime, this foursome is gonna try to outwit Clyde.
I really hope they do this. Like, can this just be like Clyde's final? I know. Like, so yeah, now they're JJ and Gabby got the nice room. Kat and Chad got the bed, or the room where I probably wouldn't be comfortable sleeping in the bed. It'd be like, these sheets don't look. I'll sleep on this chair. And so there wasn't really a lot of movement with that storyline. It's just kind of setting up what's coming. They were just kind of getting settled, and then a little bit of like Gabby and JJ, like kind of, having some feelings, and like sleeping in the same bed, and maybe setting something up there.
I'm over.
I don't got a lot to say about it.
I'm over. I'm like, can you just you're there? Can we get along to the plan? To service the plan? Can we not continue the fighting and the arguing and the rehashing? You did this to me, and I don't care about your mom, and I said I was going to help you, but I don't know. It's like, okay, enough. You're there for one mission. Put the anger aside. Get along with each other to get Clyde, then we'll figure the rest out. And
I know what Kat and her brother did. The brother that's still in jail. Sorry about it. Sorry, Mark Green. I know what they did. Obviously unscrupulous and whatever, but they're victims too. And the way you know, when they Chad and Kat were arguing, I was kind of on Kat's side. It's like, and she was like, he's like, don't make no mistake, I'm doing this to get my dead wife's remains back.
Yeah.
And she was like, what about my possibly alive mom?
Yeah.
Like, do you not care about her anymore?
Yeah.
And I was like, she has a point. You guys have a common goal.
Yeah.
Like, just get along. Like,
but
you said.
it's time. It's time that Kat started standing up for herself, and pointing out that any of the Hortons would have done the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Would have thrown every other family member under the bus to get one of their own back.
Hell, the Dimeras. I mean, she could have brought that up, but yeah.
Yes. That's a very to Chad in particular. Yes, that's a very good point. Yes. So she's not doing what any one of them wouldn't have done, and it's time if they want to keep the grudge going, that's fine, but she doesn't have to take it.
Yeah.
I like this comment. Chad loves that lady. That's why he's mad. Yeah. Second grade crush.
I mean,
it's totally pulling hair on the playground.
Yeah. I do think that they still have a chemistry.
They do. No, and you know, I just made a comment about how I want them to get along. I keep going back that scene. What solidified them for me was that scene in the interrogation room at the police station where he was trying to get out of her where Abigail was, and she was like, I don't know, and he was like, yes, you do. And she gave it back just as loud and just as fierce. And I was like, oh, I was like, okay, more of this. I
mean, you know, Chad loves a strong woman.
Yeah. So, and we saw Annalyn McCord was on set for the anniversary celebration. Hopefully that means hopefully that she wasn't just dropping in to do like some press or something.
No, she's been in the studio, the social media studio too, for the holiday stuff. So she's ostensibly still around. So
no, I would support. Yeah, they put them together somehow.
Mm-hmm. I know
sometimes we frown upon that, like, don't just put them together. But with these two, I feel like it has the makings for something great.
It works, yeah.
It works, yeah.
I'm also interested in the other side of it. Like, I'm yes, the getting along part I'm getting frustrated with, but I'm also like, I'm ready to move to the next chapter and like get back to the greens side of it. And so I'm hoping we see a lot more progress about.
And there's still the question of sorry.
No, you're gonna bring up what I was gonna bring up.
The mom.
Yes.
Where's she at? Who is she?
I'm hoping we get some kind of answers this week. We need, and I will take anything. I don't even need the full picture. I need anything at this point because it's just been dragging out for so long. I've said before, I'll say it again. I suspect so much of this particular storyline being dragged out was a lot of real life circumstances coming into play, and things needed to be moved around. Things needed to be stretched. Okay. The moment that we had anticipated for over a year, Doug's memorial has since passed. Now's the time. We need to go into the new year with this storyline full force. I want answers.
Yeah.
I also, tiny little nitpick. And Sherry, you know I love you. Gabby does not like Julie Williams.
I was waiting.
Respect for Doug.
Wait, say again. Sorry.
She had respect for Doug. She has never and will never like Julie Williams.
Sorry, I was distracted by a chat. Gabby and Julie. Did you say Gabby's never liked Julie Williams?
Never.
She planted a thing in her heart.
She planted a bomb in her heart.
But I feel like, and you know, I thought that when, you know, they were talking about, you know, when JJ found out that Doug had died and they were talking about it, I was like, oh, but she hates Julie. Like, what? But then I'm like, given the circumstances, even Gabby has a heart. You know what I mean?
There's respect, and then there's. I would caution us to remember things. That's my only tiny little nitpick of the week.
I guess, but I mean, given here's what I took away from that situation. Gabby's probably thinking it, but not saying it. You know what I mean?
Hope, but it's okay. It's okay to make a face. It's okay to make a face.
I bought
It's okay to flat out say, I don't like Julie, but I respected the love that Doug and Julie had. Two things can be the same. Can be true.
Well, let's just assume she was thinking it and didn't say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like there's no need. I mean, I feel like at this point in their history, there's no reason for Gabby to just unilaterally trash Julie or vice versa. It's like, I feel like if the conversation came up or they were head to head and got into an argument, fine. But I feel like there's no reason for her to remind JJ of that. They had a conversation a week ago about it. Mm-hmm. They've talked about that part of it getting in the way of them being friends again, but not so much. And then I think it's, I mean, I don't know if she has to say I don't, but reminder, JJ, I don't like Julie, but I think it's unnecessary at that point.
Yeah.
I don't think she wishes any harm to her. It's like, I may not like you, but if I found out you got hit by a bus, I'm not going to tap dance. I mean, that's not, my feelings aren't that deep, or I'm not wishing harm upon you, I think is one thing.
I mean, I don't think that Gabby is that cruel anymore, but to say that she doesn't need to say things around JJ, I mean, she does and she doesn't, because no, JJ doesn't need to be reminded of all of Gabby's misdeeds, because JJ is very well aware that Gabby made Julie fall down the stairs, planted a bomb in her heart, and locked Abigail in a loony bin. There's no secrets here.
No. Mm-hmm. And it just would have seemed like, for me, it just would have unnecessary for her to say something, or like it just would have been like petty. Mm-hmm. Petty when pettiness is not needed. Exactly. So again, she might have thought it, just didn't say it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It would be interesting. Oh, say again. Sorry.
No. I was gonna say Gabby's always like Doug, and if I remember correctly, wasn't it? Doug is the one who convinced Gabby to give her Stefan's heart. Like, there's always a nice camaraderie between Gabby and Doug. So I think
Doug was the only person
he was the one
who
person
could have done it.
Yeah.
And he convinced her when Lonnie didn't.
Yeah.
Lonnie basically, when she made Lonnie beg on the ground in front of her. And just to torture her, saying, I'm about 90% there, but I'm going to need you to do this so I get 10% of the way, all the way.
That was Gabby. That was when Gabby was like at her absolute worst.
Yeah.
That was not great, Gabby. Would you
top 3 worst moments?
Would you be okay once all of this is done in Vancouver and they go back to Salem? Which, let's see how long it takes them to get back to Salem. If it took them a day and a half to get from Salem to Vancouver, I just got to let that one go. Michael, let it go. Got to keep telling myself that. No, if Julie and Gabby were to have some sort of interaction, like how would we feel them kind of not mend fences, because I don't think that may be possible, but at least have a cordial interaction.
I feel like it's gonna have to be addressed because I feel like they're leaning into Gabby and JJ. Mm-hmm. And as far as we know, JJ is still a Horton, of course, and still under that roof for the foreseeable future. So I feel like it has to be addressed at some point, whether it's a conversation or whether it's agree to disagree. We'll smile in each other's face, but we hate each other. I don't know what it will be, but I feel like it needs to be addressed if Gabby and JJ are going to be a full-fledged couple. We'll see. I mean, maybe that won't happen, but yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. And that has been your week of Dishin Days. And now it's time to go to our favorite part of the show, which is our segments. And Tony is not here, so we will not have 3 snaps. So we will start with Michael Mattis's.
Caption that.
All right, this week's caption that photo. Despite how oopsie.
Caption that.
Just a note, unless I turn it off, it loops the audio. Mm-hmm. I have to remember to turn it off before I play a sound, and I did not. And so then if that ever happens again, you know that for some reason StreamYard thinks it's a worthy feature to just automatically have sounds loop. Anyway, this week's Caption That Photo comes courtesy of, despite how I felt about it, Johnny and Alex and their little interaction. And this week's caption goes to Tam Lizanne O'Driscoll from Instagram with her caption, "Johnny, I'm not a serial killer, but a serial lover." I'm not a serial killer. I'm a serial lover.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I thought it was cute.
And that was
Caption that.
And now it's time for
Those were the days.
All right, everyone. I'm taking you back to December 2nd, 1998, when Hope and Greta shared this really sort of sweet, touching moment where Hope began to play a song that Princess Gina used to play Greta when she was young without sort of either one of them realizing it and sort of coming to that realization at the same time. So it was a really nice, sweet sort of moment between these two characters who had a very mother-daughter relationship when they were on the show. And if you are a member, you will see me take a little bit of a deep dive into the character of Greta Von Umber on our members only channel when I do Those Are the Days Extended. So if you're a member, check that out in the next couple of days. But yeah, December 2nd, 1998, when Hope and I keep making sure I say Hope and Greta and not Hope and Gina because there's so many so many twists and turns to that storyline. It'll probably go down as one of Days' most elaborate and intricate. But yes, Hope and Greta, December 2nd, 1998.
She started as Swamp Girl, then she became daughter of a princess.
Yeah.
And so
that was and next up we have mine It's a GIF. And this week's It's a GIF with so many goodbyes, so much bittersweetness in the air. I agree with Dr. Marlena Evans's personal prescription of ice cream. Choose your weapon.
their scene was cute too, like
Yeah.
the mother daughter, just another kind of poignant moment this week amongst all of the others.
When in doubt, ice cream maybe will not make the pain go away, but it will help. It also helps if you add red wine to it.
And those chocolate chip cookies they had.
Or an espresso martini.
Oh,
espresso martini and some Rocky Road ice cream.
Right. Yes.
We here at Dishin Days are experts on how to heal your heart.
with food and alcohol. Yeah.
With food and alcohol.
Don't listen to us. Don't listen to
we give fantastic food and alcohol recommendations. And that was
It's a GIF.
And next up we have
News and gossip.
Yes, we're starting off with, I think last week we told you we reported the unfortunate passing of Wayne Northrup, who played Roman for so many years on the show, then came back as Alex North a little later. But the news had just broke then. So over the past week, we've gotten some very lovely sort of tributes that have come in. And just the Days cast, speaking of go check out some of the socials of sort of everyone in the cast from back then. Have some really great things to say about him. But I just want to highlight a couple. One from Deidre and Susan and James Reynolds. Deidre commented in a recent interview with Us Weekly how Wayne used to love to play practical jokes on the set all the time, with Susan adding, he was such a darling guy, always funny. That seems to be the crux of a lot of the tributes, was that Wayne was such a funny guy. He always liked to lighten the mood and just have really just a lot of fun on set. And then James Reynolds, via his Instagram, wrote, Wayne was my friend, brother, and TV partner. Grateful to have walked our section of life's highway with Wayne. So some really beautiful tributes. I know Allison Sweeney did one, as well as Christy Clark. And so, yeah, if you're in the mood, go check those out.
Yes, and his widow General Hospital's Lynn Herring did put out a statement as well, saying that she is seeing everyone's comments, everyone's tribute to her late husband, and they are bringing her comfort. So if you have any fun memories of her dear sweet Wayne, please send them her way. She is reading them, and I hope that they give her comfort in the days and the weeks to come. Yes. Next up, there's not going to be too much in the way of fan events in the coming days, because we are literally in the latter half of the year. The end of the year, I should say. And so the day players are on hiatus until 2025, but you can still get tickets to their upcoming days in Charlotte, North Carolina, in Atlanta, in Nashville, in Birmingham, Oklahoma City, Addison. These are their confirmed starting dates for 2025. I believe they did have a Cyber Monday deal. Great if you could get tickets for those prices, but you can still get them regardless. Plan ahead. Now's the time to plan your budget. Go to thedayplayersband.com for tickets and information on these upcoming dates.
Yeah, next up we have our Star Image entertainment event. This one is the not that one. I'll skip that one. We'll go to the Starstruck fan event. This one is the Cinco de Derby event. This is happening April 5th through 6th of the coming year, 2025. This one is happening in Meadowlands, the Meadowlands racetrack in New Jersey. And tickets and info, you go to starstruckfanevents.com. As you can see, it's Paul Telfer, Lindsay Godfrey, Judy Evans, Matt Ashford, Julie Dove, and Remington Hoffman. So yeah, go check that out, starstruckfanevents.com.
Mm-hmm. And I just put up the next image. The Kevin Spiritus will be having a Friday the 13th fan event with his co-star Blar Park and Lincoln. They will do a virtual meet and greet this coming Friday, December 13th. So for tickets and information, go to @KevinSpiritus on his social media for that event. So that's going to be this coming Friday. I believe, times are on the link up there.
And Justin, I think this was the
yes,
one?
That one's the Star Image Entertainment event, Christmas event. This is the concert that Eric Montoff is doing with friends. This one is Sunday, December 15th. Next Sunday? Wait, no. What day is
next
it?
Sunday, yes.
Yeah. Wait, what day is it?
It's the holidays. Everything just
everything
melts together.
What is
we're in the middle of this. What the hell's going on? Yeah. As you can see, Wally Kurth, Colton Little, Kyle Lauder, Lindsay Arnold, who we haven't seen in a while, Matt Ashford, and Carson Boatman will join him. Again, this is a Zoom concert, Sunday, December 15th. All tickets and info, you can go to eventbrite.com/StarImageEntertainment.
Yeah, and I believe, I haven't seen anything, don't quote me, but I believe this is the last big virtual fan event of the year. So if you want to end your 2024 in a good mood, this is your last chance to participate in that. So please get tickets for that event. And last but not least, we have a fundraiser bulletin from Mr. Zach Tinker. He is hosting an all-day fundraiser for his movie on his Twitch channel. So for anyone who has Twitch, this coming Saturday, December 14th, it'll be from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So it's a 12-hour event that he is hosting. He's going to be having a fundraiser on his Twitch channel. And for the link, it is twitch.tv/Atticus Marcus. Yes. So if you want to know what it's all about and you have some free time this coming Saturday, go and check it out. It's 12 hours to go and check it out. And that was
News and gossip.
And now let's check out what is coming up in next week's Days of Our Lives.
Have you met my father's long-lost grandson?
Suspicious minds.
What happened to our grandmother's necklace? It's gone.
We think it was stolen. I don't trust this so-called Doug Williams.
Questionable plans.
Who is this person you're going on a date with?
Ava Vitale.
And a week of drama that packs a wallop. days of our lives.
I swear to God, if Clyde does not get shot, if it's not Clyde and he escapes again, who am I kidding? I'm going to still watch the show. However, I will not be happy.
Yes. Michael Mattis, will rage into 2025 if we don't get some kind of conclusion to the Clyde Weston drama.
I will forever be that annoyed face emoji that's just like
yes,
that will be me for the rest of the year.
We're going to permanently add an emoji on his face.
Yes, and I love that we're getting a Kristen Ava slapfest.
Right, we haven't had one in a minute.
What do the 5 fingers say to the face?
All right.
I hope. I mean, after this week, after the high of this week, I hope we, they can keep the momentum.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Absolutely.
This was just like for such a somber occasion. It was such a great week of. It was just so enjoyable to watch. So
yeah, great
it's
way
back
to do.
to our regularly scheduled programming, but we hope it still goes high.
Yeah.
Let's end the year on some high notes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Before we go, I would like to remind everyone to once again, please follow us on all social media platforms. We are Dishin Days Show on Facebook, at Dishin Days on Instagram, and Dishin Days on X and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as subscribe to our exclusive members only page. You can do that now at any.
Thank you to the member that joined during the show today, whose name I can't find. I apologize, but
the Masked Angel.
Yes. The Masked Angel. Yes. Thank you for joining. We hope to see you at our upcoming event. And you can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at any time if you can't watch us live, as well as following our social media. You can find our individual socials. What Michael Mattis is at
ML Mattis on Twitter and Instagram.
And Mr. Tony Moore is everywhere at Lounging with Tony. And Justin Lee Hareld is?
I'm on Instagram at Justin Lee Hareld.
And you can find me, Araceli Aviles, on Instagram and Twitter at Tia323Araceli. And with that, we have our show. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back next week, all 4 of us, for another hopefully exciting episode of Dishin Days. Hopefully not somber. Hopefully we get some answers. Hopefully we get some conclusions.
Hopefully Clyde dies. Hopefully we're saying, did you hear about Clyde?
Dead.
All Michael Mattis wants for Christmas is Clyde dead.
My God.
Yeah. Hey, we should do Christmas wishes next week. Ooh, that'd be fun.
For Salem.
Yeah. We should do that. Yeah, let us know. Yeah, and we hear your comments. Hit us up on our socials. Hit us up in the comments on our YouTube page. Let us know what your Christmas wishes are for our Days of Our Lives characters. Until we see you next week. All right. Have a great Sunday, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.